truth will not be silenced, the show that allows people to be seen, to be heard, and to be human. I'm your host, Melissa Woodfork White. In today's episode, we will talk about alternative investment management with Frank Turner. Sharing our stories allows us to encourage, inspire, motivate, uplift, and help people. There will be a special surprise at the end of the show. Be sure to listen all the way through for the details. Our special guest today is my HU Bison brother, Frank Turner. He is co-founder of Solaris Capital and Verde Group with combined assets of over $500 million in private credit and medical lien funding. Before co-founding his businesses, he was a managing director for an LA-based credit hedge fund. Prior to that, Frank was the portfolio manager for the MIG Diversified Fund and MIG Capital, managing all aspects of the investment program and leading the investment committee. Prior to MIG, he served as the Consumer Innovation Executive at Bank of America in Charlotte, North Carolina, managing firm-wide initiatives across various consumer banking divisions. He holds 2 patents in financial product design. Frank began his career in Goldman Sachs. Structured finance and portfolio credit groups. He ended his tenure as treasurer of a $20 billion alternative investment franchise, responsible for over $4 billion in financings, credit facilities, and synthetic leverage transactions. Frank has over 20 years of experience as a financial services executive. He graduated cum laude with a bachelor's in business administration and finance from Howard University in 2000, and currently serves on the board of visitors for the Howard University School of Business. Frank is going to share with us about alternative investment management. Hi, Frank. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Melissa, and very good to see you. You look amazing, and this is an awesome podcast. I got to hear a couple of them before we started, and this is really exciting to be able to share my experiences.
Thank you so much, Frank, and you look as well, too. Let's go ahead and get right into the first question. How did you become a financial services executive that provides alternative investment management? Tell your story.
Well, it starts with the HU, you know.
You know.
No, I was very fortunate to be, on a full ride to Howard, and I was part of the honors program in the School of Business. And we had the opportunity through our 21 CAP program, which is a program that helps freshmen basically get acclimated to the business world, whether it be soft skills or whether it be introductions to companies. And they actually have these business teams, and they are adopted by different companies. And so I was fortunate to be, in my sophomore year, a team leader, and Goldman Sachs, who I began my career with, adopted my team, that I was the leader for that group of freshmen. And that led into my entree into the investment banking world from the very onset. So I was super fortunate. All the kudos to HU. That's why I try to be a pretty good giver and serve my time on the board for the last few years because they really sprang my career into what it is today from the beginning. Goldman was a great launching pad. Most of the people in the alternative investment space, many of the portfolio managers have DNA from Goldman. So almost immediately being on the structured finance desk, you start to see individuals that are about to leave the firm and start hedge funds, leave the firm and start private equity careers. And so you're immediately exposed to that. So exposure is everything. That really was helpful as it relates to me thinking about alternative investments. In general, the hedge funds was a big focus of mine. We did actual structured finance transactions on hedge funds. And so I eventually left the structured finance group, who traditionally does like financings of credit card, auto loan, boat loans. which that became relevant a little bit later in my career, and actually moved to our asset management side of the business at Goldman. Mm-hmm. So I was part of our hedge fund to fund business, but coming at it from the structuring, portfolio management, and financing side, which is what my structured finance experience allowed. So I was part of our $20 billion at that time fund of hedge fund business, fund of private equity business in Princeton, New Jersey, after 3 years in New York, mm-hmm. and got to interact with hundreds of hedge fund managers that we actually provided capital to. What a fund of fund is a fund that actually provides capital to other funds.
Yes.
So we were the investors for other hedge funds. And then I created all of the different working capital, the financing needs, and different types of products that use leverage on those hedge fund portfolios for 3 years while I was there. And so that really gave me the opportunity to meet many of the major portfolio managers mm-hmm. Of the hedge funds that are, some of them are almost $1 trillion managers today. When you think about how long ago that was. This is kind of the 03 to 06 time frame. Mm-hmm. And so that experience really gave me industry inroad, if you will, mm-hmm. into the alternative investment space. I wanted to go back into the consumer world, and that's how I ended up at B of A going into the credit crisis. Mm-hmm. But the combination of the structured finance skills and the hedge fund skills really led to the biggest springboard in my career, which was the Mirage family office, MIG Capital, Mirage mm-hmm. Investment Group, tapped me out of B of A in the credit crisis. For those who won't be familiar with who the Mirage family is, you're definitely familiar with how they made their money. They are the creators of Hot Pockets.
Yeah.
So they have a family office, and I was a portfolio manager with them in Newport Beach, California, for almost 9 years. Mm-hmm. And so really being part of a multi-billion-dollar family office gained another level of inroads into this business. And I ran my own portfolio of investments into hedge funds globally. So it was really a very interesting kind of trajectory from investment bank to commercial banking to family office that has me, as a part of this ecosystem now mm-hmm. for 20 plus years.
Wow. So that leads me to a follow-up question, Frank. Share with us your work ethics throughout your your 20 plus years.
So
share with us some of your work ethics.
The show about truth. Mm-hmm. I have to tell you, I did not always have the best work ethic. I think right. I was a little different. Okay. I was always
tell
interested.
Us some of the do's and don'ts based on your work ethics.
Well, I think intellectual curiosity is the main thing, right?
Okay.
You in our field, you're dealing with things that are non-traditional. There's not the asset classes that are tried and true. You have to have the ability to, be interested in new aspects of finance, new aspects of business, and honestly, a breadth of diversity of experience. I mean, because mm-hmm. we look at alternative investments, it includes, anything that's not traditionally long only stocks, bonds. And so you could be pivoting one day from looking at coffee bean futures in a macro fund to the next day looking at strips of interest only for mortgages that are stripped out via structured finance. And so you really have to be intellectually curious. Mm-hmm. I think as it relates to persistence, is very, very important in the financial arena. There's a lot of factors. Hard work is not enough. There's a lot of macro factors that go into your career trajectory. Just mm-hmm. look over the last 20 years. We've had so many events that have caused shakeups in the financial services industry, and the ability to persist through those things. You may have a company like, Lehman Brothers that perfectly fine, you're doing your job perfectly well, but implodes from another part of the bank or mm-hmm. another part of the investment manager. And so I think persistence is key. And then last but not least, I mean, look, you have to be a person that's willing to accept and work with a diverse set of people.
Yes.
Because I definitely think being an African American on Wall Street is not the easiest challenge, but it's not just being an African American or an African American male. It's really the fact of that you have to deal with so many different other backgrounds and so many different other value systems
Mm-hmm.
that you have to be able to kind of focus on. We're all here to work together. We're going to give people grace where they can be afforded that grace.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm going to have boundaries that are fair to have my environment be positive for myself as well. And I'm going to stand up if I need to, where I see, not just pure injustice, but where I see that there needs to be more sensitivity or there needs to be more empathy in the workplace.
Well, I appreciate you dropping those gems on us, but there's one that stood out that I want to discuss a little bit further, and that's how you had stated how it's more than just hard work. Because, in America, in the United States of America, that has been ingrained across Americans of all diverse backgrounds for years, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Hard work will get you to where you are, but you said it's more than just hard work. And so can you elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, I think in these environments where there's hyper competitive inputs, right? And particularly on Wall Street, the best of the best are competing for these seats every year. There's never enough seats at Harvard, at Goldman. There's never enough seats for the Yale kids at Goldman, right? So for us that are there from different backgrounds, there's never enough kids with trust funds at Goldman, right? There's another trust fund kid that wanted to be there, right, in your seat. And so I think you have to think about it from a standpoint of incentives, right? Not just for yourself, but for others, and understand there's not always alignment. And how can you bring back alignment? And I think mentorship and finding advocates, there's a difference between a mentor and someone that's more your guru, your advocate. I think trying to find those advocates early on and giving them a reason to be your advocate, right? What are you uniquely bringing to the table, even as a young professional or mid-level professional, that is uniquely you and uniquely your value add to the company, will help you gravitate toward individuals that are aligned with you having success in your career.
Yes.
Because left to the devices of the system, we know that there's, disparity between opportunities. Right. So it's not just doing great in your job. You have to be willing to, find mentors.
Yes.
Look for an advocate in the company that has a plan for you going forward. And as an entrepreneur, I know most of us these days are very interested in entrepreneurship and people that are under 30 for sure, versus, my generation. You're younger, but my generation, that's just a tease. But, we were a lot more job focused, even though we were pushing the boundaries and asking for entrepreneurship. Many of us ended up in the corporate world.
But you know what, Frank?
Today,
I do have to say, though, is that Howard prepared us to be entrepreneurs. They prepared us to leverage our corporate America salaries and jobs, incentives, and so forth, so that we could, be entrepreneurs. That's one of the things that I remember matriculating through the School of Business, having graduated from there too, is that, we're groomed for corporate America. We're groomed to succeed in corporate America. We're groomed for Wall Street. We're groomed to do all of these wonderful things. But at the end of the day, my takeaway was to leverage that, to be that entrepreneur and to do those things that I wanted to do, where I own my time and not someone else just working to make somebody else rich, if that makes sense. That was just one of my takeaways.
I totally agree. I think today's generation wants to skip a few of those steps And so I just wanted to make a comment around this works even in the gig economy and the
Mm-hmm.
influencer economy, because you have to find someone to model yourself after, and that can give you a viewpoint of what are the pitfalls and what are some of the things that you can avoid if you have the benefit of that knowledge and that advocate. And
And
so whether we're in the corporate side or whether it's
mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, was my point,
Mm-hmm.
finding mentorship and advocates is really the best way I have found for myself to level the playing field.
Well, I'm in total agreement with you because of the simple fact that there's no I in team. Yes, hard work will only take you so far, but to get to the levels that you have planned to exceed and to go for, you're going to need that mentorship. You're going to need to be surrounded with other people, to uplift, to encourage, to support, and so forth. And to, most importantly, what you said, for that guidance, that leadership, that guidance, and being able to do those things that you've done. You have had a fantastic past 20 years that most people, especially like you mentioned, as a Black man, you have had a phenomenal track record. And so with that being said, for you to share with us today about how that mentorship piece and surrounding yourself with a group of people to encourage and uplift and inspire that are going to help you achieve that success, meaning that you can't do it by yourself. You can't do it by yourself.
100%.
And so that leads me to my next question, Frank. Thank you for that. You've already explained to us what an alternative investment is. So I want you to explain to us, how does your business, Solaris Capital and Verde Group, help people, businesses, corporations achieve their goals? I want you to share with us your business products and services.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of the key things. These products that we look at from the investment standpoint, they're really just ways to provide capital strategically to businesses. People forget that, right? On the assets and liabilities of any company, whether it be a small business, whether it be a publicly traded company, they need the ability to buy, assets. They need the ability to pay rent. They need the ability to have cash flow in gaps that may occur. And these products, along with traditional stocks and bonds, are always to serve that need. And so when you look at alternative investment management, from my standpoint, I've always been focused on providing capital in a debt format, meaning some form of lending to different businesses, whether they be the consumers with credit cards and auto loans and boat loans and student loans, or whether it be small business loans, or whether it be the ability to buy account receivables from companies. All of these are part of the alternative investment universe that I focus on, called private credit. And so my two companies are focused on providing debt capital in different ways to different audiences that are non-traditional from, just providing it via a typical bond offering that you would have, on the exchange or stock offering. We're doing things that are off the beaten path. Excuse me. And so, Solaris is focused on underserved financial services companies.
Okay.
What is an underserved financial services company? It's a company that either provides lending to underserved communities. That could be, geographic communities like Puerto Rico, where we're based. It could be communities that have traditionally not have access to capital, like the Latino and Black community in the U.S., or it could be certain businesses that, because of the nature of their business, they're more difficult to lend to than, say, your regular cash flowing businesses. Say it's a business that does not normally generate a lot of cash flow upfront, but has a lot of value embedded in the business. So these are all the types of categories that we focus on. And because of that underserved or underbanked nature of the business, that's a value add in of itself. We're providing capital where others are having difficulty making inroads to serve those particular customers.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing that we do is that we also, look to create impact by these investments. And impact comes in a lot of different forms. Impact can come in just the provision of capital.
Mm-hmm.
And impact can come from the outputs of once capital is provided, what are the activities that those companies do to provide a positive impact on their community. And so when you look at Verde Group, it becomes a lot more of an impact play than Solaris is, because Solaris is kind of broad based. Some of the things we do, like we have the largest, we support the largest lender to government employees on the island of Puerto Rico.
Wow, that is
So we
amazing.
took that from a zero balance sheet at the inception of this company, and we provided them all of their debt so they can go out and then lend to police officers, nurses, anyone who has a payroll with the government of Puerto Rico or any of its municipalities are able to then now access these consumer loans. And that need was huge because the banking system in Puerto Rico post Maria will not take risks on those consumers, even though their employment is fairly stable and their household income is fairly stable for our economy on the island. They still have difficulty just getting a credit card. Like they just can't
Wow.
get one. So we basically, do things like that. But when you look at Verde Group provides financing for doctors and lawyers in the personal injury space. And because of the nature of the marketing in personal injury, and because of the people that actually need help and need to get more out of the insurance company, typically have lower income backgrounds. There's a lot of Black and brown entrepreneurs in that space. And just given the typical systematic inefficiencies, it's very difficult for them to access working capital for their companies if they have a lot of their services that are reliant on a court case to settle or a court case to go through the litigation process. And so we fill those working gaps, but we particularly fill those working gaps for Black and brown entrepreneurs that are lawyers or medical providers in that space. And we're based in Atlanta, and it's just amazing once you see how many lawyers are like, well, look, I could grow my practice a little bit, but I just can't get a little bit of financial flexibility. Or if you look at a doctor or MRI center owner of color, and he's like, look, I have all these MRIs I've done, but I'm waiting to get paid 9 months. I want to be able to pay my tech today. We provide those capital solutions at the Verde Group. And, it's very interesting because we're aligned with them, right? Instead of it just being, some form of predatory rate, we're actually participating with them on those account receivables turning over in the litigation. So it's less predatory, more alignment of our interests with theirs, but we provide them the working capital so that they can have some profit margin at the time of service, as well as keep their payroll and all of these supplies and things that they need going on the medical side. And for the lawyers, they are constantly marketing. That's the lifeblood of their business. You see every day, no matter where you're in the US, a personal injury commercial, a personal injury radio ad. So we provide them lawyer loans based on their docket, in which they're able to then have capital to continue to grow the machine of cases and be able to succeed.
Well, I will tell you, Frank, I just learned a lot from you because I didn't realize all that you were saying. Like, I understand when it comes down, especially to what the Verde Group is doing and the impact that you all are directly making. I never would have thought that they were waiting to get paid so that they can pay their payroll, and that they needed to have capital to be able to do that in that waiting period. Like, that just blew my mind, because when you see doctor, lawyer, you think that they're paid. You think that they're, do you see what I'm saying, Frank? Coming from a consumer view.
Yep.
because I'm not in that field, that medical field or that legal field. But coming from a consumer view, you're thinking that, oh, they're paid and all their people's is paid. But then when you say, this is what the Verde Group does, this is how you impact, you fill in that capital gap, you provide those loans so that they can keep going. And I'm just blown away right now, Frank. You're doing some amazing work. And I'm telling you right now, I know that my audience also learned that too, because let's just be honest, when you see doctors and lawyers, you immediately think they don't need no more money.
Well,
but then when you see it from your perspective and the work that you're doing and your companies are doing, it's like those are underserved communities for Black and Brown professionals. And
exactly.
so let me tell you, I'm just blown away right now, Frank. That is, you just opened a whole nother window. And I thank you for that, because this is stuff that we need to know as consumers, especially when we are soliciting the business of those Black and Brown professionals, that they don't have those same advantage. Well, not all of them, some of them do. Majority of them don't have those same advantages that non-Black and Brown professionals may have to fill in that gap. And that's where you provide that capital. That's where you provide that lending so that they can have those opportunities. And Frank, you just keep doing what you're doing, because I'm just blown away right now, because I know about the marginalizations, the challenges and so forth as a Black woman professional myself, but we don't see beyond our profession. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so when you start talking about other people's professions, that was an eye opener for me, because I'm just like, wow, so they got to wait to get paid to pay their people?
Yeah.
Amazing. So Frank, this leads to our final question for today. How does sharing your story today help others? Share the work that you are done or doing to bring about change. You've already shared a lot of that, but we want to know specifically, what are your current and future plans for Solaris Capital and Verde Group?
Absolutely. Well, on the first part of that question, it's definitely exposure, right? Like, I get really excited anytime I can share on a platform like this that's going to have such a diverse audience, such a wide breadth of different folks that are watching this, and they're looking for information from a point of authenticity, which is what I really love. So if I can inspire people by bringing a little bit of a different perspective than most career paths, making people aware that these opportunities are there, making people aware that if you have a situation, there are lenders and alternative investment capital providers out there that are looking to help people. It's just a matter of trying to find us in this world of so many other options. But I think for Solaris Capital, we're focused on growing the firm, and hopefully doubling in size in the next, hopefully 2 to 3 years. We actually just started a partnership with a larger investment management firm, and that goes to the advocate. Yeah, I can't mention the name of the firm at this time, but they've looked at a $300 million mandate for us, where we would be investing out of their multi-billion-dollar fund. Wow. But you got to take it as you get it, right? It's not the easiest capital raising environment for a smaller independent firm. Unfortunately, 500 million of regulatory capital doesn't really move the needle in my business.
Right.
When you start to talk about moving to investors in the endowment and pension space, which is where we all want to be. And so, we're trying to find ways to kind of get to that interim step so that we can attract capital from, large pension funds or from Yale's endowment and other larger investors that we would love to, have participate with us. I think the story for Solaris is also, investments like the Puerto Rico consumer lending group that we back. We are looking to, bridge gaps in some unique places. We're doing that now in the trucking space. We've just started working with a number of the brokers and also working with individuals that have government contracts for certain types of trucking in California. And I think we'll continue to have that DNA for a large portion of our business, continue to work with the underserved. But at the same time, we're also, providing, knock on wood, advisory services to one of the largest lenders for auto loans on the island. So we'll also continue to work to repair the ecosystem of finance in Puerto Rico, because we're citizens there, residents, if you will. Obviously U.S. citizens, but
I got
residents.
you.
And so we're trying to give back, even though mi español es muy poquito.
Right? We're going to have to go ahead and wrap this up.
My impact, I wanted to be muy grande.
And I appreciate that. I will drop your information with your episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was so awesome. Next week, we'll continue to discuss and have conversations about real experiences, personal and professional, stories that need to be shared, seen, and heard that makes us human. The truth will not be silenced. To be seen, to be heard, to be human. The surprise, if you like or leave a comment about this show, you will get a shout out. This includes businesses, product services, organizations, and events. Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you and help support our show. Buzzsprout is the best way to launch a professional podcast. Want to ask a question? Be a guest or subscribe to this podcast. The truth will not be silenced. Click on the show link. Thank you so much for joining us.